Of the first 5 presidents, 4 of them were born in Virginia, within mere miles of one another: Washington, Jefferson, Madison, and James Monroe. Monroe was elected America's 5th president and was, in fact, the last of the Founding Fathers to hold that office. During the American Revolution, James Monroe was a college student at William and Mary. In 1776, moved by patriotism, Monroe left school and volunteered in the Army. He was promoted to captain for his valorous conduct at the Battle of Trenton, in which he suffered a musket ball to the shoulder, and actions under General Armstrong at the battles of Brandywine, Germantown, and Monmouth saw Monroe ascend to the rank of colonel after gaining the personal favor of General George Washington. Monroe later served in the Senate for the first U.S. Congress, went on to be the elected governor of Virginia, and served as a diplomat in France, where, in 1803, he assisted in negotiations leading to the Louisiana Purchase. With 80% of the electoral vote in 1816, Monroe was elected President of the United States. While in office, Monroe saw the United States finally stretch from sea to shining sea, as the American territories now extended from the Atlantic to the Pacific, with the ratification of the Treaty of 1818 with the United Kingdom, granting harbor and fishing rights to the Americans in the Pacific Northwest. Monroe also bought Florida from the Spanish, and 5 states were admitted to the Union under his 2 terms of office: Mississippi, Illinois, Alabama, Maine, and Missouri. In 1822, Monroe, in cooperation with his soon-to-be presidential successor, John Quincy Adams, developed and introduced to Congress the Monroe Doctrine, which put forth that any colonial operations by Great Britain, as well as any interference with the independence or developing independence of a nation in the Americas, indeed all of the Western Hemisphere, was to be viewed as an act of aggression on the part of Great Britain against the United States. Likewise, the United States would not interfere in any European affairs. The doctrine effectively created American isolationism, which shaped foreign policy for decades to come. Born the son of John Adams and Abigail Adams, in John Adams' hometown of Braintree in 1767, John Quincy Adams, like his father, was destined for a life of public service, culminating, but not ending, with the presidency. Like his father, John Quincy was educated at Harvard after spending his younger years abroad, while John Adams served as the American envoy to France and the Netherlands. Gaining political prominence in his mid-20s with a series of articles supporting President Washington's decision forbidding American interference in the French Revolution, Washington soon appointed John Quincy minister to the Netherlands. He nearly refused, but his father convinced him to take the job. As Secretary of State under James Monroe, Adams was the principal writer of the Monroe Doctrine. In 1824's presidential election, it appeared Andrew Jackson had won. However, the electoral votes received were not enough of a majority to win the presidency. The House of Representatives was then tasked with choosing the president from the top 3 candidates: Jackson, William H. Crawford, and John Quincy Adams. Adams' presidency focused on internal improvements to the roads, ports, and canals of the country. Adams also proposed federal support for the arts and sciences, as well as the foundation of a national university. He continued his foreign policy operations under the Monroe Doctrine, not allowing American involvement in wars and disputes overseas. In another comparison to his father, John Quincy Adams only served one term in office, being defeated by Andrew Jackson in the 1828 election. Rather than retiring from politics, as most of the previous presidents had, John Quincy Adams went on to serve as a U.S. representative for the state of Massachusetts. So far, Adams remains the only former president to later be elected to the House of Representatives. Serving in Congress for the last 17 years of his life, his career as a representative outshined that of his presidency. Often called Old Hickory due to his brash, tough personality and aggressive nature, America's seventh president, Andrew Jackson, was a veteran of the War of 1812, in which, as a general, he fought and defeated the Creek Indians at the Battle of Horseshoe Bend and the British at the Battle of New Orleans. In 1797, Jackson was elected U.S. Senator for Tennessee, but resigned the same year. The following year, he was appointed a judge of the Tennessee Supreme Court, where he served until 1804. In 1822, Tennessee elected Jackson senator once again, while also nominating him for president in the upcoming 1824 election. Jackson lost to John Quincy Adams, but he had his sights set on the presidency. In 1825, he resigned from the Senate once again, this time to focus on his bid for commander-in-chief. During the second campaign, Jackson suffered a barrage of mudslinging, from attacks against his wife, calling her a bigamist, and he himself being called a jackass. The latter insult would soon become a symbol for Jackson's newly formed, renamed Democratic Party, when Thomas Nast made use of the epithet in a political cartoon. Jackson escaped the race politically unscathed, with the office of presidency in hand. During his tenure in office, lasting 2 terms, from 1829 through 1837, Jackson became the only president to this day to pay off the entire national debt. Jackson opposed the National Bank, which he felt only served to make the rich richer and exposed the government to control by foreign interests, among other grievances. It was Jackson's struggle with the bank that led to the first assassination attempt on a sitting president, when Richard Lawrence, an unemployed house painter from England, attempted to fire on Jackson as he left the funeral of a South Carolina representative. Lawrence was reported to have stated that if the president were dead, money would be more plenty.
Thanks for watching. If you'd like to help us produce more compelling historical content like this, please like, comment below, and share this video with fellow history buffs. And of course, be sure to subscribe to help keep history happening.